and welcome to Movie Buff's Quick Pump, a mini show where I hold court in the street and break down the best action movies of all time. I'm your host, Shani B. You can find me on all the socials at It's Me, Shani B. Today, I'm reviewing the 2015 film Kingsman: The Secret Service, based on the comic written by Jane Goldman and Matthew Vaughn, directed by Matthew Vaughn, and stars Colin Firth, Samuel L. Jackson, Sophia Boutella, Mark Strong, and of course, Taron Egerton.
I'm offering you the opportunity to become a Kingsman.
Like a spy.
Of sorts.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It's a bit much, isn't it?
Sorry about that. Needed to let off a little steam.
Son of a bitch.
Kingsman: The Secret Service. Rated R.
If you haven't seen it, it's about a kid from the street who gets recruited by a secret spy agency his father was once selected by to take down a bioterrorist. To kick off this impossible mission, let me take you back to February 13th, 2015, Valentine's Day weekend. It opened against 50 Shades of Grey and alongside American Sniper and Jupiter Ascending, lol. It was made for $81 million and it grossed a total of $414 worldwide. That brings me to my first segment called What's Your Crew?
If I do this, I'm going to want to take my own men.
In this segment, I'll analyze the filmmaking and evaluate the performances. I really like Matthew Vaughn's style. It feels pretty innovative to me. I like the quick cuts, the extreme close-ups, the sped up motion. The CGI is not always perfect, but sometimes it's pretty smooth and it looks kind of cool. I really like the fast editing also. He doesn't always go this ham with the details in his other films, but it looks cool here. I feel like he's kind of on the fence of being an auteur because there's something very like him about these movies. And The Kingsman is a strong franchise filmmaking wise for sure. So I'm curious to see kind of where he continues to go and if he'll always keep this style nice and strong. Taron Egerton is the lead role here. He's playing Eggsy. He definitely pulls off kind of like that immature wise guy, cool guy thing that they're going for. And in an origin story, he starts out kind of rough around the edges and by the end is like V smooth and ready to totally kick butt. But low key, the real action star of this movie is definitely Colin Firth. I mean, he's of course an amazing actor. We already knew this. He can do those straight up dramas and get nominated for Oscars. He can do movie musicals and rom-coms, but he really nails the sort of like nerdy but suave everyman James Bond he's kind of going for here. I'm not really sure how to describe it other than to really acknowledge that like there's a lot of hints there, but it's just really, really interesting to see what he's done with that character. He also looks really cool doing the fight stuff. I know obviously we've got stunt performers in here doing the work, but he looks very good in all the fight sequences, and he has multiple complex fight sequences. So even though this is Egerton's story, it's for sure the action star is for sure Colin Firth. Samuel L. Jackson as the villain is pretty silly. I definitely admire that Samuel L. always plays his characters with respect and authenticity, even when they're absurd. And this one is for sure absurd. But I guess, an eco-tech terrorist is probably a good archetype for the modern action film because we are legit dealing with that. So it works here. I cannot get down with the lisp. I don't know if there was a better choice or something, but the lisp just does not work for me at all. I do really like Sophia Boutella as his right-hand henchman. She is very cool with her razor-sharp prosthetic legs, just slicing everything in half, guns to peeps. Very cool. Mark Strong is also here as the kind of Benji of this crew. He's got all the computer stuff for you and all the weapons, and he's the scariest looking tech guy I think any of us have ever seen. Michael Caine is also here for like a sec, and Mark Hamill as well. Which brings me to my next segment, 100% pure adrenaline.
I expect the best, and I give the best.
In this segment, I'll highlight the best stunts, best kills, and most memorable sequences. The stunts are legit, both when they're simple and complex in this movie. Like Eggsy sort of using the parkour to escape his stepdad's gang. Very simple but cool, and then super elaborate when we get into like the bar fight and stuff. The wire work is really cool in a lot of the fight sequences, the way people are kind of flying back after explosions and, flying across rooms when they're being thrown during the hand-to-hand. Sofia Boutella is like fully flipping across rooms the entire way through this as well with those crazy prosthetic legs. So it's pretty awesome. The kills are brutal in a cheeky way. The opening with the Kingsman agent kind of being split in half vertically is a really good point jumping off point. Um, when the big fight at the end happens with Putella and Edgerton, he sort of scratches her ever so delicately with a little knife from his shoe is a really fun kill. But I think the most memorable one, especially for me, is the exploding heads. The colorful animation is just so cool. It's such a creative idea, and it's really satisfying to watch the rich assholes lose. It just every time, like when this scene came back on again, I was like, oh man, this is my favorite. It looks so cool. It's super duper fun. It's like that alone is always going to make this worth a rewatch. But there's just a lot of memorable sequences in this. Actually, there's so much more action in this than I kind of remembered until the rewatch. It was nice to be reminded of things as they were happening. Two skydiving scenes, which is insane, a super gnarly bar fight, a couple kind of gnarly bar fights, actually. A big ending when Eggsy is like literally taking on an entire base by himself. He does have the assistance of Merlin, in a plane, in a hangar or something, which is really fun. But I think for me, the most memorable sequence is the frenzied church brawl. It's shot so amazingly. It's nonstop fighting and killing. It's truly a frenzy because you like don't know what's going to happen. It's really exhilarating. Things are coming from left and right and behind and over, and the camera is moving in the craziest way. It's set to Freebird, which is so dope. Whenever I think of this movie, I always think of that sequence. It's the first thing that comes to mind. It's like I said, the main reason I go back to rewatch this because it's just you've never seen that before. And that brings me to my final segment, dropping the hammer.
You can't handle the truth.
Here's where I'll rate the film out of 5 Oxfords. All right. I hadn't seen this in a while, but I always remembered liking it. And upon rewatch, it is just as good as I remembered it. So I think I'm going to give it a 4. As we know, I am a notoriously high grader, but I think this one deserves high marks. It's very cool. There's a lot of interesting filmmaking stuff going on, a lot of fun dialogue, great action. So I think a 4 is what I'm going to go with here. If you haven't seen this movie at all or haven't seen it in a while, you should definitely check it out when you get the chance. All right, that wraps it up for me. So you never miss a rep. Follow the show on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at We Stay Buff, and on Twitch at The Buffs. Bulk up and subscribe to the podcast on Apple and Spotify, and don't forget to leave a positive review. 5 stars is the dream. And of course, you can follow me personally on all the socials at It's Me, Shani B. Thank you for listening to Movie Buff's Quick Pump and breaking down Kingsman: The Secret Service. I'll be back in 2 weeks covering Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Until then, stay buff.